You're listening to She's Got Drive podcast, the podcast that inspires women to be the driver in their own life through the life and stories of Black women with drive. And I'm your host, Shirley McAlpine. I'm a business consultant, an executive coach, and a leadership facilitator working with people and organizations to live their lives by design and not default. Welcome back to another episode of She's Got Drive. And this week we have a wonderful woman who is doing such great work in the world. I say every week that I'm excited about my guest, and I am, because I bring these amazing women to you. I mean, that's the truth. I get to meet these amazing women, and the range of women that I bring, covers a number of subjects and areas of work that I'm passionate about. But also, when people are doing good social justice work in the world, it really moves me to find out more about how they are doing it, what they're doing and what they're bringing, and the change that they're making. When people are doing that work, I realize they're doing it on behalf of all of us. There's only so much we can individually do, and so to meet other people doing fabulous work like this is just inspiring. I met Leah a few years ago, and so I'm really excited to have her on the show, and I will tell you about her and her work in a minute. I wanted to go on to and start with what's driving me this week. Of course, it's International Women's Day was last week, and it's Women's History Month. And so we put our focus on women. We put our focus on what women's contribution has been. And what I love about Women's History Month is the plethora of events and occasions that are put in front of us to be a part of and to go to, so that we can empower ourselves as women and what we're up to in the world. And so I love Women's History Month in terms of that. I'm always looking for spaces where women can commune, because I get sourced from that. I come away feeling better, if you like, feeling ready to face the many challenges that we have, and feeling empowered to fulfill on the dreams that I have. And so, this week I'm participating in a couple of those things. The first one, I told you about last week, is the I Am Mum Summit, which is run from the 13th to the 14th of March, goes live online, but is available to watch all the videos up until the 24th of March. So, if you're a mum and you want to be inspired, and I, as a mum who my children are 15 and 11 now, and a working mum, I find being a mum the most profound and inspiring things for me, and one of the most challenging as well. And so I'm always looking for how I can be the best I can be at that. I take my responsibility of raising my global citizens very seriously. And so how do I do that in the best way possible? So I feel privileged to be a part of a conversation which is about empowering mothers. And so my keynote goes up on Thursday, the 14th. So, but it's available, as I said, up until the 24th of March. So thank you to I Am Mum Summit for inviting me to be a part of that. But I'll put the link in my show notes for you to register for that. So even if you have a mother of young children, like whatever age your children are, it is an opportunity to get new insights and then see new ways of being as a mother. So that's the first thing. The other thing that is the Women of the World Festival that is taking place in New York at the Apollo in Harlem. And of course, I returned there. That's where I launched She's Got Drive in 2017 at the Women of the World Festival. Originally, Women of the World Festival, the WOW Festival, was started in London at the South Bank, and by Jude Kelly and the people at the South Bank. And so I love WOW. I love that it has an exploration from a cultural and social perspective, political conversations about what it is to be a woman, and what do we need to be paying attention to in this moment? How do we create sisterhood in the various things that we are facing, and how do we celebrate womanhood as well? And so it's such a rich space. It is predominantly, most of it is free. There are a couple of things that you pay for, but the actual panel conversations is free. On the Saturday, there's a teen summit, so it's encouraging young women to come together as well. And the teen summit is put on by teens who are in the youth program at the Apollo. So if you are in the New York area, please head over to the WOW Festival in New York. There are also some WOWs around. WOW, Baltimore have done a WOW in the past. So if you are ever come across a WOW festival, please, have a go and get involved, go and watch, go and participate. You will leave full and inspired and just happy to have been a part of that. And I am there on Sunday. I will be doing a 30-minute session in the main stage, and I'll be there all day because I will not miss WOW. And we've got Angela Davis is going to be the iconic Angela Davis is going to be there on Sunday afternoon at 2:00. So I'm excited about listening to her wisdom. So there's so many pearls of wisdom that you leave with. So those are the things. When I say being sourced, these kind of events are the places where we can go that helps us walk away a little bit stronger, in terms of fulfilling the life that we want for ourselves. And so I'm so happy to be participating. But if I wasn't on the main stage, I'd still be there. Absolutely still be there, listening to all the different conversations and participating in that, because it's such a fantastic space. And I'll put together an episode on that afterwards too, about WOW, so you can hear some of the inputs there. And that's what's been driving me this week. Okay, the other thing that I thought I'd do in this Women History Month is to pepper my episodes with some quotes from a couple of quotes from some women. And I have to have Dr. Maya Angelou. I just have to have one of her quotes, and so I'm going to start with her. And one of the things that she said about women is, each time a woman stands up for herself without knowing it, possibly without claiming it, she stands up for all women. I believe that so much. Each time a woman stands up for herself without knowing it, possibly without claiming it, she stands up for all women. That's right. We make a difference every time we take a stand. And so it feels appropriate as well that the woman that is my guest today follows that quote, because she is taking such a powerful stand. She's a black farmer and is doing such amazing work in the world. She's the author of Farming While Black, and her name is Leah Penniman. So let me tell you something more about Leah. Leah is a black Kryeol farmer who has been tending the soil for 22 years and organizing for an anti-racist food system for 16 years. She began the food project in Boston, Massachusetts, and went on to work at farm school in Athol, Massachusetts, and Many Hands Organic Farm in Barr. She co-founded Youth Grow Urban Farm in Worcester. Oh, do you say Worcester? Do you say here in the US? Worcester, we would say in the UK. She currently serves as founding co-executive director of Soulfire Farm in Grafton, New York, a people of color-led project that works to dismantle racism in the food system through a low-cost fresh food delivery service for people living under food apartheid. And she does training programs for Black, Latinx, and Indigenous aspiring farmer activists. She has dedicated her life's work to racial justice in the food system and has been recognized by the Soros Equality Fellowship, the NYS Health Emerging Innovator Awards, the Andrew Goodman Foundation Hidden Hero Award, the Fulbright Distinguished Awards in Teaching Programs, the New Tech Network National Teaching Award, the Presidential Award for Excellence in Teaching, She was a New York finalist, and many, many others. She has also contributed to 2 published volumes, and you'll hear us talking about her latest book, a book that she wrote, Farming While Black, Soul Fire Farms, Practical Guide to Liberation on the Land. It is a beautiful book, and we're going to talk about that more in the interview. So I'll give you Leah. Leah, thank you so much for being a guest on She's Got Drive.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I'm really excited about you being on the show. I came across your book. I knew that you were writing it, but then I, discovered it in the bookshop through my cousin, and it's just I'm just really excited about you speaking about your journey and speaking about your beautiful book. So I wanted to start with, how you came to do what you do, tell our listeners more about you, and then we can spend some time talking about the book and then talking about success, and then all the other kind of exploration that we normally do.
Well, thank you. So a lot of folks might wonder why on earth it makes sense to write a book about farming. We as African heritage people especially may associate farming with a legacy of trauma and oppression, slavery and sharecropping and all of that. So why on earth are we trying to reclaim that heritage? And I will say that farming really saved my life as a teenager. When I was 16, as one of the only brown children in my school and experiencing so much taunting and exclusion, it was the land and the earth that provided a sense of belonging for me. So I started working at farms during high school and kept it up all through college, and always knew that was the contribution that I needed to make to the community, as well as my own source of healing and strength. So a big part of starting Soul Fire Farm, which is a food justice oriented community farm that feeds folks who need it most and also trains up this next generation of farmers, was to be able to pass on those gifts that I was so fortunate to receive as a young person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say your book is such a beautiful book, number one. And no, really, it's a guide for people who want to be farmers. It's a history book. It's a recipe book. You dip into so many traditions. It's an understanding of the power of our ancestors and what that gives us as we today in our present life, as we kind of figure out and allow them to enter into our lives. I mean, it's so rich in so many ways. Congratulations on writing such a fantastic book. And you wrote it in 5 months. So
it's true.
Can you share with us what you intended about the book, and share more about this beautiful piece of art, really, and the gift it is.
You're so kind, Shirley. Thank you for saying that. And it's true. As a farmer, there's very little time that you can spend looking at a computer. So I had to squeeze that writing into. It came down to 40 days. It was 2 days a week over 5 months, and it was really just such a joy, because the process of writing Farming While Black was taking all of these curriculum pieces and all of this knowledge that we had amassed over a decade plus at Soul Fire Farm. It's the work of teaching and raising up this next generation of Black Indigenous farmers in a way that's connected to our heritage and our culture and our story. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't seen anything like it before. As I mentioned, had been farming for a long time. I went to all the conferences, I read all the books, Elliot Coleman and Square for Gardening and all that. And it was, frankly, a very white-dominated space. And I had moments of disillusionment, of wondering if I had made the right choice in terms of going into sustainable ag, or if I should switch over to housing rights or stopping gun violence, or things that seemed more pertinent, to folks of color.
Right.
And a wonderful mentor of mine, Karen Washington, who's a Black farmer at Rise and Root Farm, she pointed out to me, she's like, if you add up all the violence combined against our people, right, we are still 10 times more likely to die from poor diets than we are from all those types of violence. Right. So food matters, like lands matters. And so this book was to really reclaim that we as Black and brown people can have a dignified relationship with land, and that our ancestors have very much been part of shaping the sustainable ag movement. So we're not starting over. We're really building on this powerful legacy.
And it's also really powerful in shifting our relationship to the land, where you started was, why would we spend time in a space which has really been a place of real pain historically, but we can reclaim that and in a different way, like because whilst it was a source of pain, it's also a place where we became who we are today. So
yeah, it's really true. And my friend Chris Bolden Newsom put it so well. He said, the land was the scene of the crime. And it was, but she was never actually the criminal. So sometimes we get it all confused up with the location where that harm happened and the harm itself. And we don't want to deprive ourselves of the opportunity to provide good food for our communities, have our children have access to good soil and clean air, just because of a legacy of trauma that happened in relationship to that space, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, it does. I love the way that you put it, and or that was put to you and you're sharing with us. So how do we shift our relationship how does farming and Black farmers start to shift the relationship more broadly that Black communities have to food? Because as you said, a lot of the health disparities and health conditions that Black communities are dealing with are sourced from the food that we're eating and what we're putting in our bodies. We've looked at that before in another episode, and so how does it do that? If you increase the number of Black farmers and you increase and as you said, it's a social justice issue, how do we translate that to someone who's living in the city?
Yeah, that's absolutely a great point, and you're right, the health disparities that we see are stark and tragic. If you are a Black child in this country, you have a 1 in 3 chance of going to bed hungry tonight, as compared to an also egregious 1 in 6 chance of going to bed hungry as a white child. Diabetes, heart disease, obesity, cancer, poor eyesight, ADHD, all of these diet-related illnesses disproportionately affect communities of color. And it's a system that we term food apartheid, because it really relates to residential segregation and the type of resources available to various communities, whether you have a supermarket or not, whether you have a farmer's market or not. And so we need to be at the consumer side as well as the supply side of this issue. And one place where we really make the connection is we know that communities look out for each other, right? And so Black farmers, especially Black farmers who have roots in the urban north and are choosing this life, this returning generation, choosing the rural areas, they're people that they have loyalty to, their family members, their connections that are going to turn into markets. Those are back in their own communities. So Soulfire Farm, was started by folks of color. All of our connections were in the south end of Albany. That's where we sell our food. And there's no other farms operating there because those neighborhoods are invisible to people, who don't have a connection to them. So I think that, family loyalty might sound trite, but I really think it is a starting point for this grassroots infusion of fresh, healthy food into communities that have been deprived.
Right. And how do we, your book is going to come some way in educating more broadly, people who may never even have stepped on a farm, right? About Black farming. But what were you hoping to accomplish in writing this book?
Yeah, the obvious goal, right, is to support folks who might be considering farming from communities of color to really believe that this is a noble choice, that it is standing on the shoulders of incredible ancestors, and to give that practical support. So Black and brown farmers are at the center. But I think also, as my daughter Nishima said, she said the food system is everything it takes to get sunshine onto your plates. And we're all invested in that, right? We are all invested in eating. We all stand on lands. And we're all responsible, frankly, for the heal and repair of a food system, which prevents some people from getting good food at all, prevents certain farmers from having access to land, exploits farm workers. We're all part of that. And so the broader goal is to inspire and encourage the population at large to take a leadership role in policy change and grassroots action to heal and repair the food system.
And I love that we can be part of the change you talk about. It is a grassroots movement, the movement to have more people of color be encouraged to be farmers, and the whole movement around food, because it's not going to come from the other direction. The truth, we have to empower ourselves and educate ourselves around our foods and the food that's our communities are choosing, as well as, because some do have access but are making the wrong choices, and then there are those who don't have access, or choices that are harmful, should I say. I don't like the kind of right and wrong dynamic, but when we're informed, perhaps we make better choices. And so I love, I'm just such a fan anyway. So
Thank you.
I just don't know. Yeah, I just am. I think this is such an important piece of work that you're doing, or the purpose, fulfilling a purpose on this planet that is underfilled. So thank you for that and all your work.
I appreciate that. It's been exciting because I'll tell you, back in the 90s when I started farming, it was not a cool thing to do, and all this food stuff was really not in the public conversation. So it's been a blessing that, folks are excited, and it feels like there's a lot of momentum. I've been fortunate enough to travel all around the country since the book came out and talk to folks at places from universities to farming conferences to community gardens. And it feels like we're on the precipice of something really exciting and transformative. People have been walking around with this sense that something's missing, that there's a little ache or space in their soul that they need to fill, but they don't know what it is that they're called to do to ease that and to fill that. And the land and farming and good food starts to get at that missing piece. So there's a hunger and an eagerness in the broader community to get connected to the land again, and to have that wider sense of belonging and meaning that comes from, like, not just being wrapped up in our human world, but being part of the earth.
Right. And so one of the things you said earlier as well was, when you were going to farming conferences and the kind of broader farming community, you didn't see yourself represented, and so how is that changing? Do you bring is there a whole group of you now that go to have a presence? Are you in a more proactive way? Are you coming up with your own conferences as well? So they are much broad. I know that you run training programs at the farm, but much broader learning spaces and community spaces that can allow other people who are more wanting to dip their toe in it, as a space to go to kind of learn more broadly. How are you influencing the wider space?
Yeah, it feels like really all of the above. Certainly my heart and my hands are very focused on the on-farm training. And so we have 150 folks or so who go through our intensives every year. That's our really focused trainings for Black and brown farmers, and then a bunch of people who come to one days, a few thousand who come to one days. But we are pushing out beyond the farm. Karen Washington, who I mentioned earlier, she started a national conference for Black farmers that has 500 to 800 people going every single year since 2010.
Wow.
And I would say, too, the white farming conference world is starting to shift. Just like many organizations are in a wake-up period right now around diversity and equity and inclusion and all those buzzwords. Some folks more sincere in their attempts for true inclusion than others. But that's happening in the farming world, too. And so you see, I was at the Young Farmers Conference. I would say maybe 20% of the presenters presented as people of color. Same thing with the NOFA, Northeast Organic Farming Association conference. There was a good handful of panels that featured folks of color. And so I do think people are realizing that it's been to their detriment, actually, to exclude and not think about the folks who created the sustainable food and agriculture systems in the first place.
Good. Well, we're seeing a movement. The growth of the movement, really, and you talk about that's one of your chapters actually, is about creating a movement. If you had to given the size of the book, I think I know this is going to be an unfair question, but I'm still going to ask it, and you can say, if you had to say 2 or 3 things that you want someone to take away, like a message that you want someone to take away from this book, what are the 2 or 3 things that you want to take away?
Oh my. Just 3 things in this 300-something page book.
That's what I said. It's an unfair question, but I'm just like,
yeah.
I mean,
no,
I
can do it.
Yeah, go on.
So thing number 1 would be that you are the Black child of Black goals, and the earth has been calling you home and waiting patiently. And it is your time in this generation, in this lifetime, to heed that call in return. That would be the first thing. Mm-hmm. The second thing would be for folks, Black, white, and every shade in between, to understand, recognize, acknowledge the immense contributions of Black agriculturalists to the technologies that we now use in the sustainable agriculture movements. And the third would be to ignite a fire under all of us to make the food system fair in 3 ways. The distribution of food so that everyone has access to healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate food. The reform of land ownership, so we move from 98% of the land being owned by white people to actually distributing the land according to the population that we have. And the third being reforming labor law so that farm workers are truly protected and have a pathway to citizenship and to management and not being stuck in this wage labor cycle. So that would be, I know it was like 6 and 3, but those are my 3.
Oh my God. You rose to that challenge and you like totally like nailed it. Wow. So the first thing you talked about is like reclaiming our relationship to the land. I was so, wow, that's really moving. And it reminded me, so I want to start one of the things, because I was just thinking, God, I just want to be on your farm.
You should come. We would love to have you on the farm. But don't come now. It's -11.
Yeah.
Come
not today.
July.
Not today. Mind you, it's better than Chicago today. But one of the things, this is to do with our inherent relationship to the land. And you know, so my parents are from Dominica. And in 2013, December 2013, I went out to see my mum, who was on a trip there at the time. And I flew out and, you know, from the States. And as we were, you know, in the tiny little plane from Antigua, we were kind of flying. As I spotted the land of Dominica, it started already to be moved. I'm feeling quite moved right now. And as we touched down, I could just feel it in my body as we touched down. And for some people who might not fully understand what I'm talking about, but, you know, touching the land of my ancestors, because my parents are from, felt like it was, I could feel it. I could feel it in my body. I felt like I had arrived somewhere, like arrived home. And because I had, you know. And so when you say that, I think there is something really powerful about the shift in that relationship to the land, that people, you know, in the diaspora, in the movement north as well, to get away from the places of pain, that connection is also lost. And so when you say that, that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of that part of our disconnect from food in the choices that we're making is maybe something to do with that, you know, our disconnect from our connection with the land in that way. That is so.
I think you're so right, Shirley, because we talk a lot about, you know, good choices and how to inspire people to eat healthy. And I will say we've had well over 2,000, maybe 3,000 children come through our farm for various. Every single child enjoys the good, healthy vegetarian burritos and salad. And I believe we're good cooks, for one, and it's culturally appropriate food. But also, they grew that food. They cooked that food. And so I do believe that, you know, what's sort of framed as choice, also, we need to pay attention to whether there's connection. Because if you're just sort of served up some limp broccoli that you have no relationship to, that's not going to be compelling as a diet shift.
Right. So how are we really, and we have unlearned those so much in our communities and in our families, as families have become more apart from one another in the kind of movement, in the way that we've kind of geographically moved. Then there are those things that also aren't passed down, or if we've left our abilities to prepare food as well has diminished, and so with that, our connection to food diminishes. So there's so much there. How would you like to see your farm expand then? And we will come to. I do want to come back and focus on you and your own personal journey as well. But how would you like to see your work expand and move forward?
Oh, I love that question, because we debate that a lot. Because we live in a capitalist society, there's quite a lot of pressure to think about improvements as growth and expansion. Mm-hmm. And we've landed on a model of expansion that looks more like the way the mycelium or the fungus in the forest supports the trees. So for folks who don't know and haven't watched the TED Talks, amazing TED Talks, trees do talk to each other and share with each other, and they use fungus as their conduit. So they're passing all these sugars and minerals and messages, and they're part of this superorganism. So in a similar way, we think of ourselves as one of these trees in the forest that is feeding these younger trees and these sibling trees, so that projects inspired by Soul Fire Farm, fortified by Soul Fire Farm, are popping up all around the nation and even some internationally. There's the High Hog Farm in Georgia, and Harmony Farm in Homestead in Massachusetts, and Wild Seed in New York, and Catatumbo in Illinois. So we have all these sibling projects that have been started or strengthened by alumni of our programs, and that's what we really hope for. We hope to one day, not be special, because there's just so much of this amazing Black and brown led, land-based work going on that you can't even remember a time when that wasn't the norm.
Great. Well, that is a fabulous way to expand the work. To have more and more people, creating their own farms, and that, as you said, it's not the norm. And then you stay, because the other thing, the risk of expansion in the kind of more traditional business sense, where you just get bigger and there's more of you, and is that when we risk losing the heart in our work when that can happen, and we have seen that a number of times. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we try to stay, as we call it affectionately, a kitchen table-sized organization. So we want to make sure we can all get around the table and actually talk to each other about how big we want to be.
Nice. Well, bold and beautiful and bijou is great. So let's come back to you individually then, Leah, and your own journey today. So you said earlier on that it saved you. It was a savior for you, and help us understand a bit more about that. What was it?
It's hard for most of us to remember, but being a teenager is rough. And especially being a mixed Black teenager in a conservative rural town is rough. A lot of family troubles were going on, and I had gone to the forest for a long time as a source of solace. My sister and I, from when we were very little, we would go make forts and try to live off the land and pick up trash and all that stuff. And so when I became a teenager, I didn't quite understand that love of the earth could be turned into a way to also contribute to community. And it was this job at the food project outside of Boston, Massachusetts, where we turned vacant lots into gardens, and we ran a 40-acre vegetable farm and fed that food to women who were victims of domestic violence, survivors of domestic violence. And there was something just so right about that. Like, I can be here taking care of this earth that I love and produce this food and have it nourish people who need it the most in the community. Like, if I can do this good thing, this simple good thing, then I must be somebody. Like, I must be worthy of being here and the breath that I take in and the place I take up on the planet. So it ended up being this affirmation of my own value at the time, and that's what catapulted me forward to continue looking for farm jobs after I finished up at the food project.
So then, where are you now in your relationship to yourself?
It's always a process, it's always a process of, for me, in terms of self-acceptance. Something that I'm grappling with right now is, I feel like in our culture, and especially maybe in social justice culture, we get real attached to this idea of a hero or an exceptional leader. And sometimes I feel as though folks are either pedestalizing and admiring or imagining that I'm something different than a regular human being, and at the same time maybe externalizing their own longing for meaning, and so can act in violent ways towards me. But neither of those feel like being fully seen. And so what I'm trying to do is carve out space for those authentic relationships, because like fans and friends are two different things. And I need those authentic relationships where I'm valued for just being and not necessarily for doing. And I try to honor, other folks in my community with that same valuing of their full humanity. And because I'm not quite strong enough to always believe it all by myself, I have to have some reflections out there.
Yeah. So that's really true, that we in pedestaling people, we diminish them actually.
Yeah.
As you said, in not seeing you, and at the same time, there's something really special about you. So it's not to take that away either, So how I discovered your book, I think I told you in an email I wrote to you, and I said I was on the call with on the phone with my cousin who's in London, who was saying, I found this amazing book, and I bought it for my husband. I won't name the names. I bought it for my husband, and it's called Farming Around Black. And I said, who's it from? I said, it must be Leah's book. And she goes, yeah. And that's your reach, and way beyond that. So there is something, you're carrying something on behalf of a number of us, unbeknown to us, that's such an important message and an important work. So there's something about finding a balance, because there is something to honor there in what you're doing and the gift that you're giving. And at the same time, I hear that you want to be seen for your humanity, because you're not this like perfect human being either, So how do you have both?
Right. No, that's so well put. And also, to remember that, Martin Luther King was not the civil rights movement. Neither was Rosa Parks. There's a whole bunch of people engaged that make the work possible. And similarly, while I do a lot of the storytelling for our collective, there's 8 of us who work there, and then another 100 and hundreds and hundreds more who are engaged in some way. So I think that's part of it too, is kind of democratizing the credit, that we give to one another. And I think the other piece is, of course I cherish the work of Soulfire Farm. I love the book. I loved every moment of writing it. I believe the message is special. And one of the reasons I believe that it's having more reach than I anticipated is not so much because there's something exceptional about me as an individual, but because I deeply listened to what my ancestors and what the earth and all the forces of creation were asking me to do with this life. Right. And so this work is in alignment with something that's beyond me. And I believe, I believe in my heart that resonates. And you can tell when you run into a person who's doing something not just because, or not even because they want fame or fortune or credit, or because they think they're really smart and have this great idea, but because they're listening to something beyond and following that call. So that's what I try. That's what I think I mostly do, and certainly how I aspire to live my life.
Right, and so how do you hear it? So I'm curious, because some people will be like, how comes I'm not hearing a call? Because right. I think there's something really right and true there, that when you are following your purpose, when you are being used in that way, I do feel, when there are times when we do our work and it's like, I really feel like I was here, but I wasn't here, you know what I mean? Like something was being I'm a vessel for what came out, you know. How do you hear the call for you? When do you know that that's been spoken to you? What's that process?
I love this question because we're crossing over into the non-scientific realm here. But for me personally, and this might not be for everyone, but I feel like when I'm in direct contact with nature, when my bare feet are on the soil, when my hands are against the trunk of a tree, and I get very quiet, so quiet that the chatter of my mind stops, you know, then I can hear voices all around me. And they don't necessarily speak English, you know, they operate like a feeling, an intuition, a clarity. But I find that in nature. And I've been fortunate enough over my lifetime to receive mentorship from elders who practice nature-based religions. So Haitian Voodoo, Yoruba Ifa, and beyond just direct listening, we actually have tools. We have divination tools to confirm whether what we think we're hearing is that thing we're actually hearing. And so I practice some divination. I have friends of mine who are clergy in African traditional religions who practice divination. And so if I'm like, I think this is the direction I should go, I think I'm supposed to write this book, or I'm supposed to do this, I can check in and like get a very clear yes or no. So that's a concrete, maybe more concrete answer.
No, that's great. That's great because it is, and there's real. You've developed the trust in it. Is also what I can hear. You know, as well as looked for where you can enhance your skills in that area. Like, so you're not. Do you know what I mean? So you're not alone in it too.
Right.
Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I wanted to the one of the questions that I've been asking my guests in this kind of this season is around courage and courageous moments being times when we may take an action in the moment that's sourced from love and maybe on behalf of ourselves or on behalf of others. And so I'm wondering, you know, if you think about your life, when has there been a courageous moment for you and that you'd like to share?
Oh, wow. I feel like it's in the small things, honestly, Shirley, because I'm a scared person. I'm conflict averse and timid and can get small really easily. And it's been a journey for me, you know, even just in the past months and years, to find my boundaries and my no. You know, like I'm that person who, if I'm working on a team with you and you just don't do anything, I'll just quietly do your work and not even tell you that it's bothering me and that I'm not sleeping and staying up to get it done. I'm like, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You know, but ultimately, that's suicide. It's so self-detrimental. It's detrimental to the relationship. It's inauthentic. It's dishonest. All of that. But it takes courage to say, hey, you know, this action that you're doing is causing me harm. Or to say, hey, I know you want me to do a thing, but I'm not available because I'm going to my daughter's birthday. And you might be mad at me about that, but she's more important. And so it's been in those small moments of finding my no, finding my boundary, finding my ouch, you hurt me, that have been the biggest acts of courage for me.
And that's been you can see the development over time in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we all carry our traumas, and so depending what hurt us when we were little, you know, often that translates into what makes us afraid when we're older.
Right. And I also love how you shared that because, you know, sometimes we do feel like we do imagine that moments of courageous moments are much the big ones, you know, like. Do you know what I mean? Like something happened and I had to make it, but actually it's happening to us all the time. The moments of our own individual acts of bravery. We are presented with those opportunities all the time. And so I love how you shared. I love what you shared.
Thank you.
I have another, one of the other questions that I want to ask you is, and this is kind of linked to ancestors or, you know, since my mum passed, I have been more present to the gifts that she gave me and things that she used to say, things that that resonate with me. And I think, oh my God, I totally got that from her. And so I have a question about what did your mama say, and it could be your immediate mum, it could be an elder woman in your life as you were growing up that informs you.
My mother's amazing. So my mother, Reverend Dr. Adele Smith Penniman, was one of the students who went down in and around Freedom Summer to register Black voters in the South during the Civil Rights Movement, and was part of trying to save a baby on the brink of starvation in South Carolina. She's just incredible. And as you ask this question, I can't actually think of what she said, but I watched what she did. And she would, when the wars were going on, we were out there protesting with the signs and involved in the church community and social justice committees and all of that. And I just watched her, and I saw her act with integrity and act towards something bigger than herself. So I really credit my mother for setting an example of how non-optional it is to participate in community healing.
Oh, wow. Well, honor her and the gift that she's given over and over again, right? Over and over again. Wow.
Right.
Thank you. So my last, I know we have to bring it to a close. So I always ask my guests, if you had to speak to the younger you, and you look back at Leah, who was maybe struggling in school and in terms of her, that community of which she was a part, what would you say to her?
I'd probably just give her a hug because she wouldn't listen to me. She wouldn't listen to anything. But I think I would just say, hold on, child. Like, you are not alone. It feels like you're alone, but you are absolutely not alone. All your ancestors are at your back, and the Mother Earth is firm beneath your feet, and the Orisha are whispering you messages of encouragement from the sky. And very, very soon, child, you will be able to hear and see all this support around you. So just hold on.
Leah, that was gorgeous, man.
Thank you. Oh, it's been such a joy to talk with you.
And you, I wish we'd, maybe we come back another time. There's so much that you've shared today that's so important, and so, well, it's not even just important, it's critical. I feel like it's like this is a conversation that's critical to our survival, and I know that sounds really dramatic, but that's part of the problem because we don't relate to it like that, so we as a broad Farming While Black, I recommend the book. It's just so beautiful, a practical guide to liberation on the land. And so I'll put the link for that in the show notes as well. And, I wish you all the best with this book and your work. And yeah, I'm going to wait till it gets warmer. And then let's see, I'm going to head to the farm with me and the kids, I think, and Dan would just be lovely to take a trip,
It'd be great. Yeah. Wear your muck boots.
Yeah, well, I'd have to buy some, to be honest, but...
No, I'm kidding. I have some for you to borrow.
Just you don't often
find the muck boot, right?
You won't often find me on a farm, but I have been known to get there on occasion. Thank you so much for being on the show, and I look forward to when we actually get to spend some time together.
Well, thank you, and you have a blessed day. Stay warm out there.
Oh, yeah, I will. Wow, it's so cold. Thank you. I hope that you have been inspired to shift gears in your own life. Angela Davis said famously, "I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept." And I hear that really powerfully in Leah and Leah's work and what she's committed to doing around transforming the food system that food is a social justice issue, and she makes it really clear how that is, and it's something that we all need to pay far more attention to. So I really appreciate her bringing our awareness and our attention to it. I invite you to really buy her book. I said it's a beautiful book. It's so informative. Whether you may think, I don't want to be a black farmer, I don't want to be a farmer, but for us to be informed is much more than that. For us to understand and shift our relationship to the land, as we spoke of as well. So it's a great book. So it's available on Amazon. I'll put the link in the show notes. Well, it's available in many different places, but I'll put the link in the show notes so that you can buy the book, and I encourage you to do that. If you are enjoying the show, please rate and review the show on iTunes and share the show with as many people as possible. Think of people who are inspired by my guests on the show, and then share the show with them. I always love to hear from you too, so please contact me through Instagram at Shirley McAlpine. You can find me on my website, shirleymcalpine.com/contact me. Or you can find the She's Got Drive Facebook page as well and send me messages there. She's Got Drive is produced by Cassandra Voltalina. The music is by the awesome all-female band Blonde. The song is called Circles. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, go well and stay well.